Hi. Just a short update. The history on this lathe is an older guy bought it new, and from what I can see, it looks like the ways might have been scraped on the cross slide here. So it's not got a lot of use as far as I can tell, but it's had some bad experiences. This die-cast part is broken, and it's had a kind of a half-assed repair. Now, when I first saw it, it had this thing on here, and I cut off the lip of this piece of angle iron that was sticking above the ways, which was preventing the cross slide from traveling any further than here. So you can see you get about 2 inches more when the slide is working correctly. And altogether, you know, I'm still pretty impressed with the lathe. Now I've got a Chinese mini lathe, and the compound here on this lathe is smaller than the mini lathe compound. Anyways, so that brings some thoughts into play, like maybe modifying a mini lathe setup to fit on this lathe. It's in the back of my mind. Anyways, I've been looking on YouTube, and I run across a guy with a Chinese lathe that's just completing his changeover on the motor. This is a single phase motor, and I had trouble with the reversing switch failure, which, you know, really isn't a big deal, but I've been looking at the VFDs, and the variable frequency drives have a lot of advantages over the single speed single phase motors. So anyways, that's in the back of my mind. I'm thinking it over. One of the damages, this lathe was crashed really hard. There's a sleeve on this post that connects the two gears together. The sleeve isn't a simple sleeve. It has a key protrusion built into it. And I don't know how they made it to begin with, but it looks like it could have been CNC made. I don't know, or molded. But I ordered a new sleeve to go on this shaft. Some of the gear noise probably is because this I set this too tight, but it's coming along. I need to order some gears. I want to be able to do a 39 millimeter by 4 thread on it, and to do that I need to get another 80 tooth gear for this position, and then I think, if I remember right, this is a 30 tooth down here, plus it runs on the 120 gear. So the change gears on this thing are a bit of a pain in the butt, I gotta tell you that. Parts of it are easy. You stick an Allen key in here and the whole thing swings out. It is what it is. I'm not going to worry about it. I really do not like this this tiny V-belt, and they're 18 bucks a pop at a local bearing store, bearing and belt. And the way it works out is it really looks like you need two different size belts to switch things around. The step pulleys do not match up. In other words, in the low speed here, I need a long belt to reach. The next step in, it's really too long. The belt won't stay in the groove. While the motor's running, it'll flip out. And the other settings are the same way. You need shorter belts. So there's features about this lathe I don't like a whole lot, along with the lack of a tumbler gear. Now one of the one of the users, I can't remember the guy's name, but he posted a really nice set of plans for a tumbler gear change, and I believe I'm going to follow his plans. It's in the file section on the 9x20 YouTube or Yahoo group. Well, that's about it. I haven't really had a chance to make anything much on this. I did try out the 4-jaw chuck that they supply with this lathe, and well, it's a piece of crap. I had one guy come back to me on the forum that said he had one like it for a wood lathe. Maybe so, I don't know. It can be used. I just think it's a pain in the butt, and this is it. So, to adjust this, you throw it down. No. To adjust this, the nuts on the back, the big nuts have to be loose, but not very loose, just loose enough so that the jaws can be slid back and forth. The jaws do reverse easily. Excuse me. And the piece I had mounted on it was nearly as big as this thing could handle. And I didn't have a whole lot of trouble indicating it in radially, but to get it indicated in and tight against the jaw faces, that's a bit more problem. And still, as far as I'm concerned, the jury's out on this thing. I'll try to use it some more before I haul off and spend money on a chuck. I do like the idea that the projection away from the spindle is pretty short on this chuck. The other 4 jaws I've played with the face would be out here someplace. Anyways, a new 3-jaw is in the works, on my list to buy, but that's a big purchase. I have found several 39 by 4 millimeter backing plates you can buy that are either machined to match the chucks. The 5-inch chuck has a matching adapter plate, and I found 6-inch adapter plates that can be machined for other chucks easily enough. So that's about the size of it. I did find one other thing. The half nut here, part of it, the upper half engages. The bottom half seems to be broken. So that's a project. I have to take the apron off and see what's messed up there. This lathe, you tighten this cap screw up, and it clamps the carriage in place. And so far, that seems satisfactory. Excuse me. That's about the size of it. There's some things that I may or may not look into changing. It doesn't. The gear that meshes with the rack doesn't engage very deeply, and I have to look at that, whether I can put spacers behind it to bring the rack out closer to the front. That's about the size of it. Grizzlies hasn't announced price increases on their stuff yet, but Little Machine Shop has advertised price increases, or estimated price increases, due to these new tariffs. So we'll see about the price of parts for these Chinese lathes. In the meantime, I'm planning on buying extra change gears to get a full set. I need the manual calls for 2 30s, and like I say, the spreadsheet calls for an 80 tooth and a 30. And I don't have a complete set of change gears, but that's coming. Also, for those of you with this type of lathe, the Enco, the Jet, and a few others, before you loosen the A gear shaft or this 80 tooth transfer gear shaft, behind this cover there are set screws. Don't forget, write it down. Take this cover off. You can reach the set screws, and then you can screw these posts out without damaging the threads. Ask me how I know. Anyways, that's about the size of it. That's the progress. Bye.